everyone, I'm Melanie Foxcroft from MF Consulting. Today I'm back with Maarten Kruger from Tech Genius, and we will learn about Sally, the owner of a startup business, and how she can get her feet wet in the process of business process automation. Welcome, Maarten.
Thanks, Melanie. So I think the reality is that most business owners don't start out by actually automating their business. What they'll usually do is they'll have one of two problems. The one problem is that they don't have enough business, and the other problem is that they've got too much business. Now, I don't think many people start their business by having the problem of having too much business. Typically, it's listen here, let's find business. So how do you do that? Now, a typical thing that a new business, startup business owner will do is try and improve their online visibility. And a good way of doing that is typically by just, getting yourself your own website. Now, these websites typically are what we call brochure websites. Now, a brochure website is something that just it's like a printed brochure. You just put it online. So on your website, you'll typically find an About Us page, products and services page, contact us page. And that's typically how people just improve their online visibility in the beginning.
And what are some of the best platforms to use for this?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of platforms out there you can use to create brochure websites. I mean, typical things are Drupal, Joomla, WordPress, and Wix are popular ones. One specific one is very popular and powerful is WordPress, obviously. Now, the thing about WordPress is a lot of people don't realize that it's a software program that you actually install on your web server. And you're not actually developing or programming your website. You're just using the software to set up the pages that you want.
Okay, so let's say it's going very well with Sally's business and she gets busier and she gets more clients. And now she needs a little bit more systems in place to make a business work. What would you recommend for her?
Yeah, somebody like Sally would typically start to want to capture information, and stop using paper. And a good way to start doing that is by using spreadsheets. Now, most people will start with Excel and they'll put a spreadsheet up. Let's say, for example, customer inquiries. You want to start keeping track of those things. If people might not want to go for a full CRM system yet, so a spreadsheet's not a bad alternative. So typically they'll create a spreadsheet with your client information, the kind of inquiry information about that. And another thing that will probably happen in that stage is Sally will probably start to employ some people. And it's not just Sally that will be working on a spreadsheet, other people will start to enter information, on this spreadsheet as well. And a typical scenario, problem that happens in that regard is that people will start to lose changes. And that's it. We often get that businesses at that point will approach us and ask us, we've got this problem information getting lost, multiple people working on the same spreadsheet. Can you just help us in that regard?
So what solution do you have instead of Excel spreadsheets?
So Excel is a great product, but it was developed long ago. I mean, the first version came out in 1985. Now, what a lot of people don't realize, that was 10 years before the internet started taking off, which is in 1995. So, things like online sharing and people working on the same spreadsheets over the internet wasn't even imagined at that stage. And now if you compare that to a product like developed by Google, which is called Google Sheets, that was developed from day one to be an online platform where people can use spreadsheets online, collaborate, and work on the same spreadsheets at the same time. So I think Google Sheets has always just been quite a few steps ahead of Excel in that regard. So the first thing that we will do is convert the Excel spreadsheets to Google Sheets and set it up so they can all work on the same spreadsheets simultaneously. And a typical thing that also happens with startups is that people start employing more and more people. And as you employ more people, you realize that you don't actually want to share all your sensitive information with everybody. And it becomes quite a challenge, especially if only certain columns in certain sheets are confidential and some are not. What do you do? Because you can give some people access to specific sheets, but you can't limit specific columns. So, and then you start to realize that, listen here, we've actually outgrown spreadsheets and it's time to be looking at something else as a long-term solution.
And what is that something else?
Yeah, at this point, you're going to start paying money. Let's face the facts. You can either buy existing software or pay a subscription fee to use a cloud-based platform of some kind, or you can develop your own solution. Now, I think what a lot of people don't realize is just what a big compromise it can be to actually buy existing software or subscribe, because you can only use the features there that have been developed. And it's actually quite rare that the system out there is as unique as your business. So often it's a compromise. And why make that compromise? And that's where we come in. So in terms of developing your own custom solution, there are different options available, different routes that you can take, depending on your needs.
Okay, so what are some of these options that one can use?
Well, long ago, when everybody was sitting in front of their desktop PC, sitting at a desk, people would typically buy or develop, in this case, your own Windows software for your business. But I think, as cloud computing became a reality and people started to realize how convenient, using different devices like tablets and cell phones and, doing work on the go and, always, even if you're with a client, you've got access to so much with mobile devices that, the day of developing Windows software for your business is, it's not a popular choice anymore. So what are your options? You've got the choice of developing Windows software for desktop PCs and then developing a mobile app as well. But if you develop a mobile app, for what platform do you develop it? If you develop it for Android only, what about those very loyal iPhone users who will never ever use anything else than an Apple device, for example? So now, not only do you have to develop a Windows program, now you also need to develop an iOS program, you need to develop an Android program. And that can become quite expensive because now you're talking about doing 3 development projects instead of 1. Yeah. And so a much more cost-effective solution is actually to develop something which you call a web app or a web application, which is pretty much a website on steroids.
Okay, so Maarten, tell me a little bit more about web apps because I am boggled here.
Okay, so a web app is still a website. I mean, and I know it can sound a little bit confusing. And we've spoken before, with a startup like Sally, we'll start by creating a website for a business called a brochure website. So it's pretty much like a printed brochure that's online. But a web application is not something that you do on a platform like WordPress or Wix, where you just set up a few pages. It's where you develop the system from the ground up. So you've got all the power of something like a mobile app or a Windows app, but the big advantage is that that app is actually, well, it's a website behaving like an app, and it's accessible to any device that's got a web browser. So you can use it on your cell phone, you can use it on your tablet, you can use it on your desktop PC. You can pretty much use it on any device that's got some kind of a web browser on it, any smart device.
Well, thank you, Maarten. This has been fantastically entertaining and very interesting information. So I would like to come back and speak to you more about web apps and more about business process automation. So as always, stay tuned, stay safe, and don't forget to visit techgenius.co.za.